Hello and welcome to some more Star Citizen. I wanted to talk about 3.3 going live, 3.3.5 estimated dates, Hurston, Lorville, and some other bits that we're getting with that 3.3.5 patch. So 3.3.5 gives us an enormous amount of gameplay area, new missions, more accessibility to ships in the form of New Deal's ship shop and Vantage rentals, and a taste of the immersion that they want to do with cities, NPCs running around, players moving around habs, new mission flavors and biomes aplenty. It should be going to Eva Carty in my estimation between now and maybe the 16th of November. Looking at the latest PTU patch for 3.3, it looks like to me that it could go live any hour now. It is pretty much as close to a release candidate as we've had with previous PTU builds. It makes sense that devs want to close that branch out of 3.3 and then get onto 3.3.5 so they can then move on to 3.4. So I do expect that Eva Carty will go live within a few days of 3.3 going live, if not sooner. So bear that in mind. However, that is just an estimate from me. So let's talk about 3.3, Hurston, Lorville, and all that jazz, what we're getting with that patch now that we know a lot more. And I'm going to be using sources from the CitizenCon panels, Welcome to Lorville, The Lawmaker's Guide, the Keynote, and various others too. Hurston is the first planet in-game. It has a huge scale and allows for huge amounts of new diverse gameplay. The diameter of the moon Daymar is around 590 kilometers, and Hurston is around 2,370 kilometers. It is magnitudes bigger, and that's just the planet itself. There's a lot more gameplay area there as well. Lorville is a massive city on Hurston. It has grown significantly since it was first shown in 2017. It's heavily polluted, an industrial city with a downtrodden population, and it's reflected in that with its art style and the NPCs walking around. The city is broken up into industrial areas, the central business district, Hurston Dynamics HQ, and residential areas, gates, and transit systems in the form of trains connecting these areas together. And there is a lot of train network going on here. The city has a multi-layered feel with tall skyscrapers juxtaposed with plated, more flat structures that expose the industry beneath them. Each area is supposed to convey a very different feeling here. Players will be able to fly around the edge of the city and into the city via Teaser Spaceport. So this is marked by hollow buoys. There is no fly zones around certain areas of the city as well. They don't want players crashing into things. They don't want them flying out of that area. There are a large amount of pad and landing strips and hangars around that sort of like spaceport airport that will be used by both players and AI. In 3.3.5, there will be the illusion of busyness in this spaceport and around the city, with NPC ships quantum jumping in, going from orbit to land to the spaceport, and then from the spaceport back to orbit and quantum traveling out once they've done their business. But that will be pretty much just simulated rather than actually doing anything. It is sort of like trickery. The outer region of Lorville is broken up into 6 gates that you can enter and exit by. Each of these gates has a different feel and biome attached to it, and these are gates on the ground rather than some sort of like space air gate. They've set this up so that you'll be able to describe gates pretty much by the biome that they go on to. So you could say, oh, I'm at the Savannah biome, and you'd know that was gate 4, or the junk pile one, and you'd know it's gate 2. That was just an example, but that's basically what they're going to be doing. So after doing a few missions on Hurston, you'll be able to get much more of a read on how like the city is set up and used to where the gates are. L19 was one of the areas they showed us at CitizenCon, previously known by them as the Workers' District. I suppose it's just one of the many Workers' Districts that there'll be. Central to that area, as a landmark, is like a security area or security tower that you can use to orientate yourself with. There are bars, habs where players will spawn, and train stations that give you access to the rest of the city. There's also a variety of shops in L19. They are basically renting similar pods shop-wise. They're sort of like all modular, very similar, and then they are rebranded for the particular business that has taken over that pod. Reclamation and disposal is there as well. That has Clover Star Neely, a new mission giver in 3.3.5. He gives you missions focused on retrieving items from crashes, wrecks, and eventually he'll have more missions focused on salvage mechanics, is the idea there. Also, you'll be able to do sell scrap there and items that are conceivably close to being scrapped, that sort of jazz. The mission from the CitizenCon 3.3.5 demo to find that prototype board was from him. Also, I just wanted to say, Cloverstar Neely is the best looking NPC animation and detailed character I have seen in game ever. Like, I know they've got those Squadron 42 ones, which are they're cool, but they're still polishing them. And I even though they're not supposed to be pre-baked, my head thinks they're pre-baked. But I look at Cloverstar Neely and go, that is really damn impressive. There is a large admin office with various trade terminals around that area too, various shops for weapons and items. There is a large amount of NPCs that are going to be moving around Lorville and this area. They will largely be themed with a Hurston clothing set. These items will also be available for players to buy in the shops in that area. NPC types we'll see at Lorville include security, which will be relatively oppressive, workers. Later in 3.4, we'll have business executives when they open up that business area. There's going to be homeless people living outside the city in their sort of like shanty towns. The air is breathable on the planet, so you don't actually need to wear a helmet. This may affect your stamina, though, because the air quality is supposed to be bad. It's whether or not they've actually got that system in yet. But you'll see a lot of NPCs wearing helmets still to represent how bad the air is. And there are super cheap alternatives that I've seen with like effectively plastic bag gas masks being used by the NPCs. Some of the habs are actually supposed to be sort of like repurposed straddle frames for industrial containers, or at least based on that design. The internal hab rims there are basically mass-produced containers. The hab blocks will be where you spawn and are much bigger and have more interaction than we've previously had with any of the other sort of like mini habs around Port Olisar and Grimhex and stuff. However, they're not going to be customizable and persist to your character or anything in 3.3.5. That's all coming later. These buildings, the building there that they showed in the demo can house around 100 people. That's probably all they need in the short term. As soon as those habs are persistent, as soon as they actually have physical addresses for people, they're going to start to need a lot more expanding out, and they have the space to do that. But in the short term, where they're not properly persistent, they can just get away with having a single building there, a single hab. There is a hospital in Hurston by the hab area that you'll respawn when you die. Now, that isn't confirmed whether it's in 3.3.5 or not yet, or if it's part of 3.4. The idea in the future is that you'll respawn in the last visited major landing zone hospital, or the closest hospital based on a few factors, whether you're lawful, outlaw, or whatever. Some other things as well. They're still ironing out stuff like that, and they'll do whatever is sensible gameplay-wise in the end. There are various security guards walking around, but also at every gate and important area, you'll see a security force. They are going to be phasing out no weapon zones as a hard restriction at some point, and you're going to have these guards protect you in case of attack, but they're also going to allow for some, like, in the future, more combat style, stealth, and outlaw missions in cities as well, smuggling, and there's going to be security checkpoints which literally check you for narcotics and items that you shouldn't have on you, and you might get fines, you might get arrested and that sort of stuff based on that, and there is going to be a jail time and that sort of jazz, but not in 3.3.5. So a major part of this zone is the train station, which takes you to the rest of the city and the outskirts and wherever else you want to go. Really, that's going to be the spaceport, one of the 6 gates, or L19, or an area similar to that eventually, because they will be expanding out those hab zones to have a lot more going on. Now, trains come every minute or so based on where you are in the city. If you're in the outskirts, that could actually be a bit longer, and they go to different locations based on what platform you're on. They are mapped out. There are maps there and signs showing you updates of when the train is arriving, so hopefully you won't take the wrong train or be waiting there too long. Throughout Lorville, there is signage clearly showing you the routes and helping you navigate, though. You shouldn't get too lost. They are also color-coded. Big signage everywhere, just sort of like treated like an airport. The security checkpoints are quite light in terms of functionality at the moment. As I said, eventually these will scan you for contraband and all that sort of jazz. You'll have to go through a security checkpoint to get onto the spaceport and ship shop areas. New Deal is a ship shop there that allows for a variety of ships to purchase, and I'll give you the prices that they were listed for in the demo with Alpha UEC where available, though they have likely changed a bit for 3.3.5. They're going to get balanced in 3.3 further. We've got Teacher's Ship Shop in 3.3. but they need to obviously tweak those so that they are obtainable during a patch cycle. So eventually all of these prices will be entirely dynamically driven by the economy and will vary from day to day. We saw the Hammerhead, which is the most expensive ship we have seen in game, with a Alpha UEC amount, and the most expensive flyable ship at the moment, with 21.4 million Alpha UEC as its current price tag. The 85X was 616,000 Alpha UEC. The Aurora was 220,000 Alpha UEC, and the Prospector there was also 1.62 million Alpha UEC. So the Aurora and Prospector are the same as Teach's shop is in 3.3's PTU at the moment. Again, that will change. These all things will change. We also saw a Constellation Phoenix, a Mustang Alpha, and an M50 on display there too. There is also going to be a shop called Vantage Rentals that will allow for ship renting in 3.3.5. It does sound like there will be other brands of ship shop available on Hurston or Lorville at some point, with varying ships available at both of them, or many of them, based on actually how many they put into the game and how many they put into the Lorville. Large hangars are also part of the spaceport. There will eventually be various sized hangars and hangars for different uses as well. Some of these hangars can house starfarers. In fact, in 3.3.5, the large hangars that we definitely will have are that big. So I'm assuming we'll also have the smaller hangars, or some of the smaller hangars by then, but I'm not sure about that. For ships larger than that, like the Hammerhead, I believe, they will be able to land on the surface pads at the spaceport rather than those enclosed hangars, I believe. The transit system, so from there, connects the inner city to the outer districts and the gates as well. There are giant walls that separate the city from the outer biomes, and you have to go to one of these 6 gates to enter or exit. They are marked with large towers and flares. At night, they're going to be very well lit. You will get used to where they are. As I said, they are sort of like tied to a biome that they go like exit onto. Hurston is a massive planet with a significant biome diversity compared to what we've had previously. 30 to 40% of the planet is going to be this sort of like wasteland-esque biome, or the city. They have bodies of water, seas, and lakes on Hurston as well, if you want to call that a biome. There is the polluted coast biome, where the sea hits the land, basically, and it's going to look pretty disgusting, I suppose. There are mining pit biomes containing both old abandoned mines and newer, more active ones. There's also going to be roads around these areas as well. They're more sort of like semi-procedurally generated by the actual biome type rather than intelligently placed roads. Trash mesa biome, dumping grounds for sort of like anything too expensive to scrap or recycle. There's the savannah area as well, which is actually quite beautiful. Some of this will be unexploited. The idea is that most of the planet was savannah before all the pollution and sort of like the exploitation with weapon tests and mining and stuff like that as well. There's also an acid biome, which is around 5% of the planet. It's more of an accent to it, like the planet's fighting back. For the biomes, they now have increased their 3 materials type approach that they had previously, that we've seen for moons like Yella and Daymar and all that sort of jazz, to now having 16 materials variants for 3.3.5 and Hurston, which gives them a massive range of variation and detail when it comes to these areas and the textures that they use for them. This also gives more planet variations, but also a breakup of the area and smoother transitions between them. Assets like rocks integrate with this system much better, and things that they scatter on the ground. They build biomes like Savannah using botanical zoos, they call them, a small area to see how flora feels when merged with the rest of the area. And once they've got that all happy and done, they'll add that to like the procedural system. There is a natural logic in the way that the trees are generated in these biomes, with them spreading out in a way that simulates where seeds might have landed from other trees. They use distribution maps as well. They had the old 3-channel system with that as well, but now they have 6, allowing for areas to make more sense visually, but also harder to see any form of generated repetition when it comes to like scattered objects. They use scatter patterns as well with this to cluster assets together, and then this means that they don't have to be like too resource heavy in their placement. Trees will blow in the wind as well, which is at least in some form, in some way simulated in 3.3.5. Different biomes and areas can have different values for wind. Eventually, this is going to be entirely automated and basically done by a procedural weather system that will be set to planets and biomes and things. There's lots of variation too with vegetation. They can literally just use shaders to change the colors. So this could also represent seasons as well, but it makes trees not look exactly the same every time you see them in bushes and things. There will be areas on Hurston of green splendor, pretty much untouched by any form of pollution. The lighting on Hurston was made slightly bluer, a bit more like Earth. Not too red, not too brown, like they previously had. They had a very sort of like red-brown atmosphere last year. Much better looking, much more representative of something that we're more used to, I suppose, by bluing it out more. They want to have cleverer canopy lighting eventually as well, where light shines through trees based on leaf density and stuff like that. This is wanted for like jungle planets especially, but in the shorter term, they're just going to use some more simple techniques. Outposts will be all over Hurston and its moons, as well as the new underground facilities. The FPS AI that are in 3.3 should be making their way into certain areas here as well, and part of the mission sets here. Typically, they will spawn for those missions, and they basically are generated for them until they're cleared out, and then they'll respawn once someone takes another mission that will spawn them, if you see what I mean. We're going to see various other missions as well in 3.3.5, points of interest, crashed satellites, derelicts, crashed ships. There is so much content on Hurston that many players will consider living service side from 3.3.5 onwards. You might not even need a ship when you're there, as long as you have a vehicle. Now, obviously, everyone will have a ship, typically. Actually, I suppose people could upgrade to just a vehicle. I do not recommend you do that. I don't know if there's actually going to be pads outside those gates to spawn a ground vehicle, though I almost certainly will be. And if there isn't, players will soon request that. So almost certainly there will be pads for spawning vehicles. Obviously, a ship will make stuff a lot faster. I'm just saying that some people will want to do what they want to do, and if it's a possibility, some people will do it. And missions, some of them will be entirely planet-side, especially on Hurston. So there is that option. That's what I'm saying. Moons and other gameplay areas. So let's not forget that they have 4 new moons with 3.3.5 as well around Hurston. So that's Aberdeen, Ariel, Itta, and Magda. They will have a sort of like their own separate biome each. Some of them might have blended biomes, but I think they're all like one's an acid one. They are a testament of how the procedural tech can quickly create a gameplay area. They will have outposts, missions, and various other ways of populating those moon surfaces too. So they won't be entirely barren, but they will be pretty much mostly procedurally generated. But there might be some Easter eggs on Hurston. There might be some Easter eggs on the moons, so bear that in mind. The additional gameplay area is many magnitudes larger in space as well as on the ground. With a larger distance to travel across from Crusader to Hurston, various rest stops, which are entirely replacing the current Astro services by this point, they're going to allow players sort of like a natural break from flying their ship, as well as being able to buy items and that sort of stuff as well. Literally a place where players can quickly jump off or log off or whatever and get something to eat IRL is how I see them. There's also asteroid fields and mission areas that will inhabit these areas of space, especially around service stations. They sort of like see these stations, these rest stops, as being hubs of interest. Travel time from Crusader to Hurston is likely to be at least a couple of minutes, though times and distances will get a lot of balancing as the system gets fully built out. There are lots of additions they want to make to Lorville, with the business district being opened up in 3.4. They are also going to be making underground facilities and structures larger and have more variation, which we will see across Hurston, but also other areas. Expect some missions to span across the entire new gameplay area. Cargo hauling is really going to vary in profits you can make. Do you bring escorts on these long-distance cargo runs? How much is your refueling and time spent to have the UEC earned? Mining's going to have a lot more places to potentially mine ore from, some of which will potentially be more dangerous than what we've had previously. There might also be a bit more push towards some criminality and legality stuff. Hopefully by this time. We should have a bit more variation in the missions that we already have. As a point of note, Recco Battaglia is on Levski at the moment, but will stay in the Stanton system once Levski moves to the correct system in the future. She will start to provide more mining-focused missions too. Performance-wise, we should have a more dialed-in object container streaming and additional optimizations to Planet, City, and Core Tech to allow us to enjoy the great frame rates that we're getting in 3.3 PTU to expand across to 3.3.5, but we won't 100% know until it's in our hands exactly what sort of performance we're getting. A lot of people are worried that because of the density of Lorville, that it might be laggy like Levski was. So there's a lot that needs to be dialed in for performance to work well and to give us the frame rates that we deserve. So we'll have to wait and see, but it's very, very doable from their standpoint now. But what do you think? Do you think I'm right with my guesstimations at 3.3 and 3.3.5's time frame? What are you looking forward to most in 3.3.5? Are you impressed or disappointed with the progress that Star Citizen has made this year? Please tell me in the comments below. If you don't have Star Citizen yet, be sure to create an account with the links below to receive 5,000 UEC, the in-game currency, as a bonus, and to participate in any free flight. Every month we have a ship giveaway. For November, I am giving away a Saber Raven, Star Citizen game package, and a CitizenCon 2948 digital goodies pack. All you need to do to be in for a chance of winning is be subscribed to my YouTube channel and comment on any of my videos made during the month. More details below. If you would like to further support the channel, the links to my Patreon and donations are down in the description below as well. If you are considering getting or upgrading your gaming PC for Star Citizen or any other game for that matter, instead consider the Shadow Cloud gaming service. It's a subscription-based service that leverages your internet connection to turn any appropriate device, whether it be an old PC, smartphone, tablet, and more, into a powerful Windows 10 gaming PC. It's been working well in the latest 3.3.0 PTU patch of Star Citizen. I'm going to try and maintain a best practices guide on my website as well. More information is available in the links below, and if you do decide to try it, use the code BoredGamer to get a discount. Thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you in the verse.